sparks echoing through the stars when the Emperor's perfect Mars. From Cadia to Terra's gate, we'll never bend, we'll never wait. Talking fleet with their blue skin. Warpugs roar, we always win. Warpugs fight with all their might through the darkest depths of night. Against the cringe, we'll never fall. For the Imperium, we stand tall.
Warpugs!
Warpugs fight with all their might through the darkest depths of night. Against the cringe, we'll never fall. For the Imperium, we stand tall. For the Imperium, we stand tall.
Hey guys, what's up? So, it's Tuesday, it's BattleTech Tuesday, and that means one thing. We're about to learn some stuff. Now, we have found in many ways that we can agree on a few things. Number one, Comstar is here, so make sure you pay your bills. Number two, Kerensky 1.0 was awesome, and the sequel really sucked. The sequel was absolute dog water, and it's continuing to get worse. Hey guys, so Black Wolf, I am doing okay. What's up, Alan? All right, so let's see. All right. I hope you have plenty of aspirin in a rage room. This is my rage room, my guy. This is my rage room. The interquel was good. Sad story, Andre. Yeah, Andre wasn't that bad. He wasn't that bad. He was just trying to do what he thought was best, honestly. Guys, it is time. It is time for us to dive back into a primer on the clans. This is part 2. Okay. Dude man. Hello, old man. I'm young man. Well, hello, young man, dude man. Don't worry, there's one part of this that is glorious for about 10 minutes. That is excellent. Yeah. The most wonderful time of the year. There are like buttons for pushing and subscriptions for setting, and everyone knows this is the most wonderful time of the year. Yes, Gallon. Guys, I would like to thank every single one of you for making this a great time of the year for me. I can tell you guys that this year has been absolutely amazing. Because of this community, a lot of changes have happened in my life over the past year. A lot of really, really positive changes. And it was just amazing. It was this time last year that I was saying, because of this channel, I might be able to get a house. Here I am in this house because of this channel, because of you guys. And I can't thank you guys enough for that. I really, really can't thank you guys enough for that. Every single one of you has made a significant impact in my life, whether you know it or not. So if you're ever thinking, I tell people all the time when they're talking to me about, starting a channel, where they're talking to me about, wanting to start off on YouTube, I always encourage people, because the one thing that is extremely true about all of this, judging by people who have messaged me and left me messages and things like that, telling me, that I was there for them during certain times of their life. They would just, turn on the channel and just check something out, and it would make them feel better. I've gotten those messages. You guys don't know how much it's meant to me as far as this channel, what this channel has done for me and my family. And I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, because, to be honest with you, no matter, I could spend 20 minutes talking about this every single time I turn on the camera, it would not be enough. And you know what? I'm going to continue doing this. I'm going to try to find a way to get back into doing lore, everything else like that. But I don't want anyone who comes here and just spend some time with me to not think that they haven't had a significant impact in someone's life, because you've all mattered to me. So I don't know what to tell you guys, but from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for coming here, for spending some time with the old man. We're going to jump right into this. We're going to learn about BattleTech. This is actually a lot of fun for me. Finding out about a franchise that I have wanted to learn about for quite some time, that I have dabbled in but have never really dove into, to be honest with you. So BattleTech is that franchise, and every single time that I talk to somebody about what, where should I go to for this lore, where should I go to learn stuff about it, everybody said the same thing: Black Pants Legion is the place to go for that. And now every Tuesday for the foreseeable future, we're going to get into more and more BattleTech. Let's get into it, Warpugs. Let's go. Exodus to Elementals, a Primer of the Clan, Part 2, Slap a Grot. And the funniest thing about that is, Howard, I can say Slap a Grot now in stores, because it is in the store. Let's get into it. Unlicensed Station, Clown Prison 13. Emperor. Yeah, if you didn't know, the Slap-a-Grot, as soon as you guys were telling me about that you guys like the Slap-a-Grot thing from the Catalyst lore video, I got somebody on it. It's in the store now.
Welcome back, class. I hope you enjoyed your break, because we have a lot to catch up on. Last time around, we opened this can of worms called the History of the Clans. This lecture is a continuation, and as such, it will serve as a further primer on the clans and their weird way of life.
Yay!
So, without further preamble, we shall continue the deep dive on clanner civilization with an investigation into how they diverged from their SLDF roots into what they eventually became.
Awesome, dude, man. Remember, the clowns are...
Up to this point, the only thing that separated clanners from the Inner Sphere was distance, time, and avowed ideology. Their experiences weren't all that dissimilar from their distant Inner Sphere cousins, as their civilization, while...
Is Diclonius in the chat? Is Diclonius in the chat? Look at that. Somebody tell me Diclonius is in the chat. If not, somebody clip this for him.
New had gone through a similar period of horrific civil war. They had indeed gone to war just as the Inner Sphere had, and fought along cultural allegiances not dissimilar to simultaneous events some 1,000 light years distant, and sought a permanent solution to their differences megaton by megaton.
Hooray!
But after the cessation of the Exodus Civil War, and a return to order as imposed by the clans and their architect Nicholas Kerensky, the cultural divergence from Inner Sphere society that began with the Exodus began to significantly widen.
This really... If this was shown today, if this was a cast of characters today, like in a movie, I'd go watch it, simply because with a cast of characters just weird, I don't think, okay, so first off, you have the guy that played way too much D&D. You have the guy that lived way too close to power lines. You have a Yandere from anime here. You have a Yandere genetically engineered to basically kill you. Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Gender bent reptile from Mortal Kombat. Princess Leia the real game. And a clanner from Necromunda. There you go.
This was the crossroads at which they would find themselves, and the road beyond them, choked with the ashes of their many poor decisions, was all the reminder they needed that there was no turning back. Nicholas Kerensky, ever the cultural magpie, had read the lessons of the past, and in this case creatively applied them to further his own agenda. Using practices taken from 20th century totalitarian states such as China, Nicholas Kerensky swept away anything he felt burdensome on his new civilization. Anything that didn't fit his utopian ideal of a warrior society was to be swept away, and so, by tightening his grip on every facet of daily life and leaving zero room for dissent among his populace, Nicholas did away with old ways of thinking, old cultural observations, old morals and ethics, old habits, old laws, old uniforms, old ideas, old allegiances, and old practices. Piece by piece, Nicholas Kerensky was forcefully erasing all vestiges of the old inner sphere, from cultural identity, ideological biases, language, religious and political beliefs, to even how someone should devote their creativity. Whenever questioned on his chosen methods or reasoning, Nicholas would again remind people of the great wisdom of his father, as established by his own creative, if alternate, interpretations. If they persisted in any measure of dissent, he would ensure they were obedient or silent. Despite avowing a meritocracy away from the inherited power structure of the inner sphere, he had set himself up as the head of what was quickly becoming a quasi-police state. And further, he was, by his own estimation, the sole inheritor and now protector of everything Starleague stood for.
Congratulations.
He assumed the mantle of responsibility his father had worn, and despite wanting to, at least in his own skewed vision, uphold the grand idealism of Starleague, he managed to create a totalitarian regime that punished everything from wrongdoing to poor fucking grammar, to prevent.
You know what? Quite honestly, if you're using this century's worst governments as a basis for your own government, you're screwing up majorly. Rip off, what's up, bud? Tex makes a lot of Space Station 13 jokes and references. I recommend watching both Seth and Mandalore Gaming's reviews to understand the glorious madness. I'm gonna have to. I have homework now. Let's get back into it. Thank you, Rip off.
A slide toward the old destructive ways of the inner sphere and ensure the system of order endured in the fragile
Clanners don't like contractions? What the hell are they, Sunnian?
years after the Exodus Civil War. He took a very hard line on what would be termed unclan-like behavior. After all, they had nearly destroyed everything in the first conflict. A second would mean annihilation. As this was in practice, a state with no room for alternate power structures in the least, any conflict with state ideologies would be punished by the most extreme measures available. To Nicholas Kerensky, to preserve a society by making examples of folks who worked against the common good would be a worthy and necessary sacrifice to ensure the prosperity of his new system of order. After all, to him, it was a necessary price to pay for peace. His version of peace, at any rate.
Joyous.
This new society required absolute obedience to a single way of life and service to your clan and honor above any other consideration. Nicholas Kerensky had already demonstrated the value of his idealized society through his caste of chosen, proven warriors, for they had destroyed the warring factions of the Exodus Civil War. They had punished those responsible for leading it with swift and brutal justice. They had, through their devotion to a greater and unifying cause, established a lasting peace. But Nicholas Kerensky didn't stop there. He didn't see himself as an occupier in a strange land. He saw himself as a liberator of oppressed, backward-thinking people. He saw himself as an enlightened man with a mission to uplift and enlighten the downtrodden.
Oh, wow. Remember, guys, the jackboot crushing your balls is there for your benefit.
Through his father's wisdom and his own vision, he would forge a new society, and so began a great period of cultural reorganization among the people of the Exodus.
Yay!
I must address the consideration that what information we have
What the hell kind of rave is this?
at this point comes courtesy of recently acquired, highly classified briefings made by Comstar. during their extensive study of the clans. Comstar, being one of the few institutions that never forgot the wisdom in knowing your enemy, made every effort to understand the clan war machine, from the invasion of 49 through till the end of that conflict and beyond. One of the foremost minds spent studying their way of life in great detail was a man the clans had completely dismissed as a paper general, Anastasius Vogt. His insight into clanner culture comes from his first-hand experiences and thorough study into their way of life, their culture, their beliefs, and history. He dutifully compiled and studied everything he could get his hands on, from interviews with clanners to examples of their texts and art. From this, he distilled not only the foundational principles of their society, but in time, the necessary strategies to defeat them. So, drawing upon these files, let's briefly explore a clanner society from their own accounts to better grasp the radical reforms of this early era. We begin with the caste system, as implemented by Nicholas Kerensky. The clan caste system was instituted by Nicholas Kerensky as an attempt to impose order on the chaos of civilization. Yeah, his response to the puzzle of civilization, the endless cycles of war and destruction, was to put people into a Bronze Age caste system.
Hooray!
This was justified in part by creatively interpreting the words and wisdom of his father, and melded with lessons cherry-picked from cultures Nicholas was seemingly fascinated by in ancient Terran history. And despite the pressures any civilization endures with the slow march of time, the clan caste system is still very much alive. Perhaps due to the belief that not adhering to the tenets passed on by Nicholas Kerensky would result in chaos, ruin, or the collapse of all they had built.
Real quick question, I gotta back it up a couple of frames. Now, I have some confusion about this art piece. Alright? I got the pyramids in the background. I got a ziggurat in the background. I have tents in the background. I have the outside of a high city from 40K in the background. But why is the pig there? I'm just asking. Why is the pig there?
Also, resisting such foundational beliefs in clan society was punished by the most extreme means available as unclan-like behavior. As discovered by Anastasius
barbecue.
Vogt,
Awesome.
the foundation of the caste system is immortalized in the Remembrance, a history in verse, passed down from one generation of clan lore master to the next. Much of clanner history is contained in the Remembrance and interpreted by a clan's lore master, which is a combination of historian and judicial administrator. Reading the Remembrance is a laborious process I would not recommend to anyone studying their history on a casual basis. As it stands, it is mostly poetic in composition and gives tremendous insight into the soul of a clanner. We find the organization of the clanner caste system outlined in passage 67, verse 26, lines 21 through 37 of the Remembrance, which will now be spoken by a clanner who has agreed to stop trying to kill me on condition I allow him to play a part in this lesson.
Okay.
You're up, weirdo.
5. Nicholas proclaimed was the foundation upon which our true society was to be built. Laborers to till the land, to do the tasks. They shall have our undying gratitude, for they are the muscle behind us all. Merchants to buy and sell with fairness. They shall have our commerce and respect, for they are the bones upon which we are built. Technicians to build and fix the machines. They shall have our admiration, for they are the fingers with which we grasp life. Scientists to create and discover. They shall have our awe and our attention, for they are the mind of our society. And above all, the warriors who protect. They shall have our cooperation and worship, for they are the blood and soul of us all.
Well, that was fun.
Yay.
You may sit down.
The hell is a Sparta? like, bad Sparta, though? Trying to reintroduce practice like oral history in the distant future because that's a good idea? True. Very true. Jesus Christ, what the hell? Only 5 casts. That's what you do. 5 casts. The Tau caste system, but better in every way, and if the fire caste replace the ethereals. Can't we just take the fire caste and make it the nuclear caste and destroy all the Tau? I'm just asking.
I believe that clanners chose to commit much of their history to such a form as the remembrance, as they are a ritualized society that worships a legacy passed down in a quasi-spiritual fashion in much the same way many ancient Terran cultures handled the telling and retelling of their histories, folklore, and great deeds. At the core of
those that survive being thrown off a rock,
grounded as much in mythology as it is in real events and people. As a living history with a unique bias, it holds the lesson that their very existence as a civilization is owed to the messianic figures of Alexander and Nicholas Kerensky.
I'm saying this. I'm trying not to start screaming about Daleks. I'm trying not to start screaming about Daleks and exterminate. I really, really am.
Who, in their nobility and wisdom, sought to leave a barbaric and cruel world behind, leading a chosen people to this new Eden among the stars. Yeah. It teaches further that the Inner Sphere was once a bountiful paradise, despoiled by the barbarians of the great houses, ruined by warlords and despots, and corrupted by the love of power.
Bro, this art, I absolutely love it. How metal is your helmet, my guy? Okay? How metal is your helmet?
And I must admit, in truth, some of those points I actually do agree with, but a police state's history is always going to be creative with the notion of assigning blame and further creating heroes. From the Comstar study, we can find that clan society has 5 recognized castes, and one very real, but unrecognized one. The warrior caste and its people most of us are well acquainted with, either by proxy or hard-earned first-hand experience. Their work speaks for itself, and by design they are the de facto inheritors and protectors of Kerensky's legacy, and to underestimate them has been the doom of many. They are from those men and women of the SLDF who took part in the Exodus. And then the second, they are bred and trained exclusively for the various conflicts clanner society demands of them. They are pitted against one another from birth to death in a constant set of trials and challenges to not only attain positions of responsibility, but to keep them. On the battlefield, they are equal to any fighting force currently available to the Inner Sphere, and fully capable of fighting many times their number without even the slightest thought of self-preservation. As this is a civilization built from the warrior elite, it is no wonder that the warrior caste is in charge of the day-to-day affairs of clan governance. All castes directly support, and in essence, owe fealty directly to the warrior caste.
This is always a good sign.
That all clan leadership is of the warrior caste, and only blood-named warriors may be elected Khan of the clan, or even directly participate in clan council. Okay, so what can I say about blood names? Well, how's this for a slice of strange? Clanners don't really have last names, at least from birth. Clanners don't get last names until they earn them, if they're lucky, that is. But in truth, it's not just a name, it's legacy in surname attached to a warrior that has proven themselves on the field of combat in a fiercely competitive trial for precisely that purpose. To earn a surname is to inherit the legacy of that name. Assuming the mantle of a blood name means that your new name is therefore attached to all of the lofty deeds historically associated with it, whether that name be Kerensky or Pride, so on. All clanner warriors aspire to the lofty heights of honor that comes with earning a blood name, or they intend to die trying. With a blood name comes great power and honor and glory. It is the means by which their legacy will be chosen to live forever in the memory of their clan's history. To earn this singular honor of honors is the crowning achievement of a warrior's life. The warrior caste is at heart a competitive group continually testing themselves against each other until their time comes to die with honor. And the right to a last name attached to the honored dead is just one more contest they aim to win.
Okay.
And as far as blood names go, I'm not even going to deep dive on their meaning and importance beyond what I've already said, as I'm not even sure I understand it, other than surnames are for people who are extra good at fighting for honor. Whatever that means.
Okay.
I just think blood names is the sticky little stars your teacher puts next to your name when you remember not to eat your homework.
Yay!
Unless you're a Capellan, in which case schools are places you go to learn things that probably aren't propaganda. I'm joking, of course. Capellans don't have schools. Oh, man.
Nice.
Anyways, the warrior caste says a lot about a clan, and accordingly, each clan views the warrior caste slightly differently.
Okay.
Some clans' warrior castes see themselves as a first among equals, leading their people in noble pursuit of bettering the clan as a whole, and through it enriching their own lives. Some warrior...
The sad to say, the Capellans actually had one of the highest literacy rates in the Secession Wars. I can see this happening because how can you backstab your enemy if you don't know what they're thinking?
Castes see themselves as rulers in the medieval sense, passing down draconic punishment and frequently mistreating lower, lesser castes with casual disdain.
Yay.
It is worth noting that there are not a lot of warrior caste clanners, as they require a hell of a lot of training and enormous material and logistical support. Also, the frequent trials, challenges, and training with live ammunition result in a survival rate well below the other castes. Now, this may be a matter of opinion, but the limited number of the warrior caste, that is, those who are allowed to bear arms, instructed in their use, and capable of using them in any functional military capacity, is one of the key reasons, at least so far as I feel, that the clan invasion of 3049 failed as it did. By the middle of the 31st century, there were only 115 to 120,000 clan warriors across all known clans, and only select few clans were allowed the honor to participate in the invasion itself. In fact, in preparing for the invasion, the clans believed that any more than 5 clans would be complete overkill for the task of bringing the inner sphere to its knees. This, ladies and gentlemen, is called fucking hubris.
Yeah.
Comparatively, in the same time period, the Lyran Commonwealth Armed Forces alone had 15 million men and women in active service, and its largely incompetent general staff was more than willing to throw people into a slaughter, as they had done for 4 succession wars up to that point. It is no small statement to make that any invasion with that disparity in numbers, while obeying a strict code of conduct and military tradition which hugely limits the use of force, strategic implementation of vast arsenals, and with direct prohibitions against using overwhelming advantages on pain of honor, would be an exceptionally stupid endeavor, which would be obvious to anyone who knew math. But I suppose that's just the opinion of an asshole. Back to the main.
This is why you just don't worry about, societies with oral traditions, because they make decisions like this. My God. The Lyrans had that much. Now, I never really focused on how big the Clanner invasion was. I know that Comstar stopped them cold, but was it an absolute pub stomp is what I'm thinking, okay? They were outnumbered massively and tied the hand behind their back. What's up, Eleanor?
Point. The wild and wonderful caste system. The scientist caste is something of an interesting subject, as it is where I feel the true strength of the clan lays. For where the inner sphere was busy nuking each other into the Stone Age, and then continuing the fight with Rock's pride from the irradiated rubble like a bunch of stoned apes, the scientist caste of the clans pushed ahead and built off the substantial technical and engineering knowledge inherited from the remnants of the SLDF. They took what was already the best equipment and technology humanity ever made, and they improved on it in every conceivable way.
Enhance. Enhance. Look at this guy right here. Right here. Yes, at long last, I have created coffee that has the same effect as cocaine.
From advanced eugenics programs to terrifying weapons programs, the scientist caste is solely responsible for the exodus, resulting in a net gain in technological base, instead of regressing as the Inner Sphere did. Whereas the Inner Sphere fought over scraps of functional Star League equipment, the clan technical expertise improved it and made incredible technological advancements to their warfighting capabilities. The phenomenally gifted scientists of the scientist caste have not only built new warriors, but many new and exciting weapons for them to use. From omni-mechs to power armor to advanced life support systems,
Okay, somebody tell me what an omni-mech is, okay? Because I don't know what... He said omni-mech a bunch of times. I don't know what he means by that statement.
This caste is, I feel, the true powerhouse of their civilization, with relatively few restrictions placed upon their scientific undertakings.
Plug and play mech.
Clanner scientists are directly responsible for the tremendous pace of technological development in Clanner society.
Oh.
Aside from that,
okay,
there's the technician caste who maintain the fleet and equipment of the clans. Fleets, I must point out, are still largely in one piece, as they didn't waste them in wars over virtually nothing.
So basically, everything that I've seen in like specific games where you could like switch out loadouts and stuff like that, that's because of omni-mechs. Okay. Easy weapon changing, easy. Okay.
There's also a merchant caste, which oversees the needs of clan financial interests, acquisitions, and trade, and a lowly laborer caste that handles virtually everything else.
Hooray.
The survivors of the Exodus Civil War took to the caste system, being pleased enough to have safety, security, and peace after so very long. After all, it was a system of order that seemingly worked, as everything up to this point had resulted in endless cycles of destruction. But some took to being assigned a fixed place in society as an insult, to be told that you're born to do a job, and only that job, with very little prospect of rising beyond it, no matter how you apply yourself, can make someone a bit bitter. And that's where we get into the caste that clanners don't want to admit actually exists.
Ooh.
Even in an ordered society, there are people who refuse to fit in. And this brings us to the dark caste, or bandit caste.
Are you neurodivergent? Fuck, I hated that movie.
Officially, the bandit caste does not exist.
Officially.
In truth, however, this is the caste that is where all those who do not fit into clanner society end up. This is a population beyond the control, or at least the authority of the clans, those nomads and fringe society folks who really are no different than the bulk of those inhabiting the deep periphery. Resistant to organized government, society, and the laws that govern them, the bandit caste has no aim other than to have no aim. The bandit caste are those who refuse to live in clanner society or have nowhere else to go. They reave and raid to support their own interests, and that's nearly all that's known about them. Occasionally, the bandit or dark caste will raid clanner bases for supplies, from water to ammunition. They will take what they can before fading away. Only a few clans have managed to deal with this caste in any meaningful manner, as controlling professional outlaws is a difficult proposition. Some would note that the only reason a dark caste exists within a warrior society at all is the simple need to give clan warriors target practice. But considering they still exist, I posit this. The dark caste is a release valve for clanner culture, a place to put people who do not belong, but cannot be conveniently made to disappear or suppressed by any other efficient means. But, fatefully perhaps, Nicholas Kerensky's dabbling attempts at bettering humanity did not stop with what it stood for. It did not stop with instilling virtues and honor through clever interpretations of his father's work. It did not stop with ordering society into castes and forcing people to adopt a certain mindset or be punished, chastised, eliminated, or cast out. For Nicholas not only wanted a better society, but better people. And rather than wait for nature to take its course, or his civilization to naturally make a better class of person as it was designed to do, he decided to use science to speed things up. It was a breakthrough back in 2816 that began the path to a better clanner. The iron womb was originally a technology principally used to keep premature babies alive, but it was soon pressed into service to rapidly mass-produce human beings from tailored genetics. Whereas widespread adoption of the eugenics programs had been a taboo subject in the inner sphere, to Nicholas, it was a necessary step to develop the culture he so desperately wanted as quickly as he wanted it.
So how did the birds and bees conversation go in clanner society? That's the big question for me. 1 second, the wife has appeared. Yes, the breeding pits. You see, when a mommy and daddy mech love each other very much. Yeah.
After early successes were demonstrated, widespread use of the iron womb was implemented in 2819 to rapidly breed newer generations of warriors, free of unwanted defects or shortcomings. Nicholas Kerensky would get his new warriors by factory process, churned out and made to order. By Nicholas Kerensky's own wishes, he could design a brave new world with the very best people science could provide.
You lot want to fight? My mum was a tube in Mount Everest! Mum fucking Everest! Yay.
Over time, tailored genetics would result in a significant gulf between a clan warrior and the rest of humanity. Now, I will say that some in the clans, at least initially,
Bro, are you serious right now? Like, you need to stop eating the beef and you need to give whatever burgers you're eating a little bit to her, okay? Because her hair and skull are weird.
had concerns over the moral or ethical or even social implications stemming from such technology being used to breed essentially what were superior human beings genetically engineered for specific purposes. However, when these concerns were raised to Nicholas Kerensky, he silenced them, as was rapidly becoming his custom. Any clashes with his vision of a new utopia were seen as unclan-like behavior and summarily dealt with. It was the skewed perception that stemmed from his earlier cognitive illness, or not knowing when to leave well enough alone. But this was the course he had decided was necessary to preserve his vision of the future.
Oh, great.
What he wanted was better warriors. He didn't care how, and he didn't mind crossing ethical boundaries to make it happen.
Yes.
After all, by his own logic, accepting the limitations of the past was to inherit the limited thinking of the old inner sphere, and by his own interpretation.
Why have I got I will be the perfect clanner. Look at my nipples. Look at them! Just sad.
That was unclan-like thinking. Those born of this technology would soon become the new warrior elite.
Jesus Christ, dude!
Written directly into their genetic code.
The
These
mullets
products of eugenics became known as the Trueborn, engineered to be better in every possible way for the task at hand. And that task was glorious, honorable combat. The warrior caste of today is overwhelmingly Trueborn, though it is notable that some freeborn have managed to actually land places of influence within the warrior caste by being either supremely talented or just batshit crazy.
Dude, your biceps, and your neck are outrageous. Not a bad account, thank you. Have you heard the good word of Blake? Not yet. I don't think he said so yet. Yeah, it is an experience.
And I say this in all fairness. Clan society doesn't officially prevent a freeborn, that is, someone born the old-fashioned way, from rising in the ranks. It is, in many ways, a very real meritocracy that justly rewards brilliance, audacity, and getting things done through enormous personal sacrifice, so long as the cultural rules are obeyed
Han
at
Duo.
every step. Though this is not always the case. Prejudice of the trueborn toward those born the old-fashioned way, and their presumed arrogance and belief of total supremacy has resulted in many promising leaders being relegated to lower castes or made to disappear for daring to challenge the established order of things. The warrior caste tends to look down on freeborns as they are born imperfect. This prejudice still exists, despite the fact their founders were freeborn.
Thank you, not a bad account.
Initially, there was only one model of clan or trueborn.
Uh-huh.
But with time, scientific breakthroughs allowed for further enhancements to be made. And accordingly, the eugenics program rapidly evolved. There are 3 main clan phenotypes known to the inner sphere at this time.
Okay.
Firstly, there are the elementals. Engineered to be 2 to 2.5 meters high, they are bred for strength and endurance for the purposes of being the very best battle-armored shock troops science can provide. They are near fearless walking slabs of muscle, raised and trained to fight above and beyond the capacities of any naturally born human being, raised from childhood to be assault infantry without equal. Elementals are more often than not incredibly aggressive, focused warriors. Elemental training prepares them for the brutal rigors of combat and a variety of combat situations.
Wait a minute. These little annoying fucks from MechWarrior 3 are those dudes. Think Space Marines with Krieg mentality. What?
And they are taught that by their combined strength, anything is possible. Extensively trained to operate alongside mechs or by themselves, elementals can ride into combat dangling from a clan mech and then leap into combat to seriously complicate the situation for any opposition. Clad in advanced power armor, equipped with jump jets, and carrying enough firepower to decimate a platoon in minutes, elementals are the penultimate evolution of rapid mobility infantry doctrine, fully capable of fighting in any fathomable theater of war, from the vacuum of space to hygiene worlds. Elementals are a clanner solution to practically anything requiring infantry. The inner sphere knows little about them, other than their sheer determination to jump onto any mech with mad glee and proceed to tear the pilot out of it. Packs of elementals can and will tear a mech to pieces with relative ease. These ultimate warriors are a mech pilot's worst nightmare, and a nightmare squared, as they have absolutely no fear of your equipment and absolute faith in theirs. Those who underestimate their abilities fill the graveyards of many worlds. Terrifyingly enough, inner sphere mech warriors have found elemental power armor to be fully capable of taking enormous damage. Reports from the front of the clan invasion mention elemental power armor taking multiple hits from mech-scale weapons. The sheer resilience in the face of overwhelming odds and the terror tactics elementals often employ led many inner sphere mech pilots to initially think they were fighting aliens. But if we're going to compare clanners to aliens, I have to bring these things up.
Okay.
These are clanner aerospace pilots. Clanner elementals are one thing. They're just big, strong turbo infantry and expensive dates to boot. Their purpose on the battlefield is a clear evolution of infantry doctrine. The
Still at your own peril, gentlemen.
hardships of infantry combat require the engineering of a better soldier. That makes sense. But clanner
So basically a female elemental is a muscle mommy in final form. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that what I'm hearing?
aerospace pilots are something else. Averaging 1.7 meters tall and 50 kilos heavy at most, with distinctly enlarged craniums and eyes for enhanced perception. Clanner aerospace pilots are optimized for spaceflight, or they got stuck on the way out of the jar. Sorry, couldn't resist.
Nice.
These thin, diminutive aerospace forms are designed for withstanding intense G and aerospace combat, and presumably take up less room in generally cramped starship conditions. Insofar as I know, they don't do very well outside of space combat, and arguably their overall impact on the history of interstellar combat is minimal. That could be either from Clanner doctrine not making the most of widespread aerospace forces as they'd rather get on the ground and go toe-to-toe in the squared circle, or that intersphere aerospace pilots are some of the craziest fucking people in the galaxy and will gladly test their skills against anyone at any time in any place for ownership of the sky. And that's something that Tira Miraborg demonstrated when she single-handedly killed Ilkhan Leo Showers during the clan invasion through a thing called a kamikaze attack. Clanners were so impressed by this act of heroic sacrifice, they gave her her own lines in the remembrance. Take from that as you will. Lastly, there's the most common Clanner warrior phenotype, the mech warrior. These guys and gals may look normal, but with massively superior reflexes and a brain chemistry altered to better interface with neurohelmets, far better than their inner-sphere counterparts anyways. They're second to none on the battlefield. Well, when their leaders don't lead them into the inner sphere while bidding away every single material advantage they have to ensure an honorable victory. But regardless of their phenotype, Trueborn are a class apart, taught at a young age that they're the true inheritors and protectors of Kerensky's legacy, raised in social groups designed to challenge and shape them into the ultimate self-sufficient and loyal warriors, and then put through a training program engineered to weed out the weak, reward the strong, and to obey a ritualized honor system. Only the very best even live to make it to the battlefield. Bred to be better warriors in every possible way, trained extensively on every piece of equipment they could conceivably use, and tested endlessly against each other in ritualized combat. The Clanner warrior caste is one of the most terrifyingly effective fighting forces in the history of humanity. It is no small wonder that they forged such a fearsome reputation on the battlefield. As failure for a trueborn, failure to live up to expectations, to rise to the top, to live to the requirements of whatever mission put before them, means they are potentially stripped of power, authority, and honor, or worse, cast down into mere civilian life, and then generally looked upon with contempt, derision, and scorn for the rest of their days spent doing thankless work. I wanted to bring up Trueborn for this reason, and this reason alone, before resuming the history lesson. A Brave New World to Nicholas Kerensky was not something shaped by the resources he had on hand. This new world that he fashioned from history, from his father's musings, and from his own damaged mind, would not be inherited by the sons and daughters of the old. Radically changing how people thought and lived was insufficient to the task of forging this new society. Bringing people to embrace his father's wisdom as interpreted by his own creative hand was not enough. Casting away the ways of the old inner sphere was not enough. He was not content to merely change what was in a man's heart, but the man himself. Nicholas Kerensky's future required a better human being, and rather than wait for his civilization to produce them in line with his utopian vision, he used science to whip one up. Soon after coming of age, the first generation of Trueborn took their place in society, and humans made the old-fashioned way would begin to be looked on with scorn as second-class citizens at best. Genetics were an unnecessary lottery to General Nicholas Kerensky's thinking. They were a wild card, a gamble. As for every great man, for every great leader a society can make, there will be a million who would rise to simple mediocrity before being forgotten. And so this new society would be shaped primarily by those born to be exceptional, trained to be the best society could offer, and only after extensive competition, led by the finest among them.
Well, this is going to be a really, really screwed up place. Christmas and Thanksgiving are going to be brutally uncomfortable, okay? Brutally uncomfortable.
As for those born of natural means, free birth is what they would come to call them, and it is the primary insult that Clanner uses on citizens of the inner sphere. But a society just isn't the people, for a civilization must have an ideology. Honor was a critical sticking point and foundational belief for the nascent clan civilization. From creative, if not poetic, interpretations from his father's writings and his own extensive imaginative input, Nicholas Kerensky would build a warrior society governed principally by ritualized systems of honor.
All right.
That's not to say their society doesn't have its own quirks that would in time
have its own quirks? The entire society is a damn quirk.
Result in a radical divergence from the distant inner sphere relations. In a society with limited resources, strongly influenced from the hard, early days of survival on marginally habitable worlds devastated by near 20 years of reckless warfare, Clanner's society is notably engineered toward efficiency and does not allow for idleness, disruption, or chaos. They also recycle damn near everything and see waste as unclan-like. Yes, recycling is not optional. But you can't just will an ordered society into being. And naturally, clanners use a variety of controls to force people into accepting and adopting practices that benefit their caste and clan. From strict observations regarding work ethic, interpersonal communications, and conduct on and off the battlefield, clanners rarely stray from the mold they're placed in. And admirably enough, it seems to work. Peace would be maintained through superior firepower, tempered by a...
Wait a minute, I saw something.
Cycle damn near everything and see waste as unclan-like. Yes, recycling is not
Daddy
optional.
issues, there you go.
But you can't just will an ordered society into being. And naturally, clanners use a variety of controls to force people into accepting and adopting practices that benefit their caste and clan. From strict observations regarding work ethic, interpersonal communications, and conduct on and off the battlefield, clanners rarely stray from the mold they're placed in. And admirably enough, it seems to work. Peace would be maintained through superior firepower.
I knew I saw something there. Enhance. Kane!
Tempered by a warrior caste that I will admit have noble intent, and that they are unwilling to fight a war on the sheer reckless scale the Inner Sphere was historically known for. To a clanner, war was for a purpose. You fought your enemy to gain new technology, new land, people, resources, or honor. War was never to annihilate your enemy unless absolutely necessary. War was never ever to inflict significant damage to worlds if you could help it. Conflict was a strictly regulated contest between warriors and governed by a code of strict conduct to ensure, above all, when the smoke cleared, civilization endured. In theory, these rules and guidelines ensured that society was tempered into never again repeating the violent mistakes of the past.
Oh, of course not.
That's not to say there was ever peace in this strange warrior utopia. For in clanner society, there was always a conflict, but it was always small scale, controlled and highly focused conflict, governed by agreed upon terms, and served as an outlet for many long-standing feuds that might go otherwise unanswered. with ritualized rules to guide them. The warlike nature of the clans was governed by the understanding that they would endeavor to never again resort to the barbarism of the Inner Sphere. And again, I have to give them kudos for that. That is, after all, a far better job of things than we did in learning from near annihilation. The Inner Sphere went through 4 succession wars to determine that nukes are probably not so great when everyone uses them at the drop of a hat, and that technology is hard to replace when you kill everyone who knows how math works.
This is generally a positive outlook. You should not just simply drop the sun on the ground because it's Tuesday, and the people that know how math work are generally people you don't want to go the way of the dinosaur. I'm just saying.
Through Nicholas's orders, Clan Society did away with many structures of the Inner Sphere, and what it borrowed or interpreted was modified to suit the needs of the clans. But there were some parts of their distant cultural ties to the Inner Sphere they couldn't part with. One of those things being language. Whereas the Inner Sphere speaks a wide variety of tongues, from the German spoken in the Lyran Commonwealth as an adopted state language to the bizarre mixture of Swedish and Japanese spoken in the Free Rasselhag Republic, the clanners, however, still speak the mother tongue of the SLDF, Star League English, and this language to them is sacred. It is an artifact of an age of heroes and their mighty deeds. It is the high and noble language of Kerensky, of their founders, of the wise and noble messianic figures who guided them to this place and gave them everything they have. It is a cultural tether that bonds them not only with their past and their founders, but the distant age of the Star League itself. Clanner language is treated with the reverence of a holy text.
Oh, God.
And speaking it poorly will result in sometimes tragic consequences. In fact, it's worth noting that they hold such respect for the language that they consider the use of contractions to be extremely ill-mannered and dangerously unclanlike. Their language is a critical bridge to the distant past, to the time of the founders, and keeping it alive in a sense bonds them with the great deeds of Kerensky. The language has, though, subtly mutated out there in clan space.
Subtly.
But with strict cultural controls and sheer distance from any other cultural influences, the language is more or less the same as it was in the late 28th century. But I will say that there are words created in the deep periphery that have no translation to what I'm speaking now. Here is a small taste.
Okay. A brief glide to clan terms by Comstar. All right.
So, you're about to get into the battle with the clans, and while you're out there on the battlefield dodging bullets and their horrible battle tactics, you might also hear some weird language.
Okay.
Here's a quick list of some of the terms you might hear on the battlefield. Affirmative. Negative.
Okay.
Battle. Battle challenge. It's when the clan actually get together and challenge each other to battle. Blood name. It refers to the blood name or surname of a certain clan. If you have a blood name, it means that you're much more important.
Okay.
Supposedly. Bondsman. A prisoner taken during combat. Chalcast. Someone or something that is outside of acceptable clan culture or challenges it.
Chalkus. Chalkass. I could say so much.
The founder. Nicholas? How do you say that one? Nicholas. Nicholas? Oh, Nicholas. Okay. The name the clans use for Nicholas. I'm gonna get that. Fuck him.
Rift.
Craft.
Ah, shit, I must have taped over it. Anyways, back to the lesson.
Craft.
And while
What?
language is a mostly immutable construct for them, there are some things clanners couldn't help but take wholesale from the inner sphere. Some things that were not cast away, mutilated, or changed significantly. For if no other reason than to foster competitive spirit and team building, the clanners play a variety of sports. I'm serious. And I'll be honest, their teams are pretty fucking great. Clan Wolf loves the lacrosse of all things, though they do play it in full battle armor.
Of course.
Steel Viper and Star Adder both field impressive rugby teams, and Clan Ghost Bear plays an ancient Terran game called American football.
Hells yes, son.
Their elementals do anyways. If any of their mech pilots are willing to play elementals in a game that encourages tackling, God fucking help them. While possessing no unifying religious belief system, there is a sort of spiritual belief common to the core tenets of clan culture. In clan,
They need to get an aerospace pilot to be a quarterback, because sacking an aerospace pilot as an elemental would be like, I don't know, hitting a Tonka car with a bulldozer.
culture, the Kerenskys and their great acts are synonymous with the core beliefs of the clans. It was they who led people away from the barbarism of the inner sphere
Of course.
and into this new utopia, a promised land made sacred by their hard work and sacrifice. Nicholas Kerensky is hailed as a messianic figure who rescued his people from their avarice, greed, and the darkness in their own hearts. From birth, clanners are taught a mythological form of their history, in that the inner sphere was once a beautiful paradise, wrecked by barbarians,
And Karita.
and that the great houses are nothing but corrupt, neo-feudalistic states, intent on destroying everything of value, and each other, at any cost. Having fought for and against many of these neo-feudalistic states myself, I can tell you that their checks usually clear on time. And aside from Capellans, they're no better or worse than the rest of us. But that's merely the opinion of an old mercenary. Clanner
I love how Capellans are the exception to literally everything.
culture is engineered to reinforce the idea that the descendants of the Exodus fleet are the true inheritors of Star League, and that the clan way of life exemplifies these values. Honesty, working for the common good, working for honorable purposes, and upholding the virtues of the Star League as a sort of idealized, perfect living utopia. These values are established to avoid repeating the excesses of their own history and the seemingly unending cycles of destruction inherent throughout human history as a whole. As such, they have turned war into a sport, a challenge between parties, bargained and bartered with exceptionally strict terms of conduct. And I say war is a sport because that's as close as I can reckon it. To clanners, conflict must be as fair as possible. The clanner way of war is to ensure parity between opponents, with the greater forces bidding away their advantages, whatever they may be, to ensure the contest is as even as possible. If you have warships and your opponent does not, you don't use them to absolutely wreck their planets. You bid them away and challenge them on fair terms for their territory. If you have assault mechs and your opponent mere infantry, you changed your lineup to ensure an honorable combat amongst equals.
Okay, no wonder Comstar beat the fucking brakes off of them. No wonder Comstar beat the brakes off of them. Wow. That's dumb. That's really dumb.
This would gain you honor, even if you lost. While this system is, to me, tragically stupid, as it eliminates the point in maintaining a technological or logistical advantage over your opponents, it does have its merits, if few.
Very
Throughout
few.
history, war has always been, in essence, a violent real estate business, with both sides trying to be the firstest with the mostest. War has historically been a contest between states to see who could put more warfighting capacity into a war zone, to have or develop an advantage in numbers and material, and then use that leverage to overcome the defenses of your enemy. Clanners determined that war was to take enemy real estate and keep it without inflicting catastrophic damage in the process, at least in theory. War to them was governed in a sense to prevent it from spilling over or escalating beyond the contest as established and agreed upon between the declared combatants. And
so basically, just tell me if I'm right about this, okay? Tell me if I'm right about this. So the Clanners' idea of how to conduct a war was to meet you with equivalent force and then simply beat the living hell out of you when you should have basically come up even in the exchange. I kind of think that's yeah. I kind of think that's a very idealistic view of war. And that's why they fucking lost.
And while I would love to expound further on Clanner society at this point, from the Bushido light that is Zelbriggan to the mysteries of the Honor Road to Batchels and how to claim your very own bondsman, I feel that perhaps this would be its own lecture series down the road. Let me know. The main point of my analysis here is that Clanner society is one of rules, honor, and strict systems of control, engineered to produce a unified society focused entirely on propagating its belief system and overcoming any threat through precise applications of violence. It exists as a system of control to rein in the brutality inherent in civilization by regulating military forces and their use to ensure civilization endures even if the individual does not. Their society is built to ensure that the very best shall lead and everyone else supports them. But even in systems of control, there always exists the potential for disaster.
Uh-huh. Oh boy.
In these early years, there was a measure of severe discontent among the more powerful clans. As a fiercely competitive culture geared toward handling issues principally through highly focused, violent trials, discontent has, of course, every potential for very lethal consequences. Ilkhan Nicholas Kerensky had been most impressed by Clan Wolf during Operation Klondike and had decided to join them formally, after a trial, of course, because that's how they do practically everything. Clan Jade Falcon was pretty goddamn mad at this. Outwardly, they were of course honorable and subservient, but many within Jade Falcon felt that Jade Falcon alone deserved the great honor of Nicholas Kerensky's potential membership in their Cool Kids Club. While Jade Falcon leadership knew their place, the rank and file expressed greater and greater discontent at the seeming lack of wisdom displayed by Ilkhan Nicholas Kerensky. If he wasn't wise enough to join Clan Jade Falcon after all, what else was he unwise about?
He didn't join the literature club. He must be...
This came to a head in July of 2823. Ilkhan Kerensky was intent on visiting Clan Jade Falcon and their holdings on Eden. Discontent and rumblings among the rank and file were at an all-time high, and, well, with Kerensky on his way to see what was really going on. Hazen, as one of the few people in history to take a sword to a gunfight and win, acted as she did best. She found out who was unhappy, and she got rid of them. All of them. By the time Kerensky arrived, the ringleaders were executed and bodies put on public display to be picked apart by animals. Only a bare few escaped punishment this severe. What had once been an officer of the Black Watch was now the founding Khan of Clan Jade Falcon, and she would ensure none dared threaten order from within or without. And this would set a precedent for how a clan could deal with such internal problems of doubt. And this is just one example of the problems the new clans faced. For while Clan Jade Falcon had suffered a few dissatisfied warriors grumbling about political power and honor and all that nonsense, there was a whole clan upset at how things were unfolding.
Okay.
I'm going to have to tell you about the final death of the old guard. Those who remembered the time before Nicholas Kerensky and his brave new world, and who, in their audacity, dared to oppose him. This is, at least in brief, the story of Clan Wolverine. In the end, it was a truly magnificent tragedy.
Okay.
But I feel this story is important to the early years of the clans, and I need to cover this in some detail. I have to say at this juncture there exists the very real and difficult issue of trying to confirm these events. As with the outcome of this whole endeavor, it was obvious that this story is something the clanners wanted to erase from historical record.
Really?
While they tried their best in that endeavor, records do still exist. And from those piecemeal records, I can say that not all was well in the early years of the clanner civilization. There's a hell of a lot to say about Clan Wolverine, and I fully intend to tell their story on its own in the future. But I hope this brief version of events covers enough for our purposes.
Okay.
Here and now. The head of Clan Wolverine was Sarah McEvedy, daughter of the legendary SLDF General James McEvedy, who was in turn the last commanding officer of the 331st Royal BattleTech Division. Sarah was an accomplished command-level officer, firm believer in the foundational morals and principles of the Star League, but also, and perhaps most contentiously, a free thinker.
Uh-oh.
And being a free thinker in clan society was a dangerous occupation. She reasoned that in the same way Nicholas Kerensky led Clan Wolf and by Ilkhan provided leadership and guidance to the clans as a whole, she should be free to determine the course her own clan would take. This was a mistake.
Yes.
Whereas Nicholas Kerensky had opted to instill the virtues of honor and glory through Zellbriggen, preferring to challenge opponents in single combat.
Look, you cannot challenge the cult leader who has drunk all the Kool-Aid with a dance-off. Nobody's gonna like that.
Sarah McEvedy dared to use Star League tactics to include combined operations warfare. She saw no good goddamn reason to tie her hands in the affairs of war. That honor was just a word to be used by people who'd never held a fucking gun. And her rulership of her own clan reflected just that. Her leadership was seen as dangerous and subversive as she exercised thinking for herself rather than emulating the so-called wisdom of Nicholas Kerensky. She found herself at odds with clan systems of belief on more than one occasion. For instance, she allowed her people to migrate between castes, as she believed and found that folks were more productive and dare say more fulfilled when they could shape their own destinies with hard work and fulfilled ambitions. She found that people who were talented enough and tried hard enough to better themselves could in fact better the clan as a whole through their hard work and dedication. This went against Nicholas's vision, and accordingly, she was called to task. Her reforms or interpretations of the clan system was something dangerous not only as it went against the wants of Nicholas Kerensky, but in that it was actually successful. By shifting the castes around and enacting reforms aimed to fix the system from within, she managed to not only increase food output and economic output, she managed to even push the scientist caste to develop technological marvels beyond what other clans had been able to achieve up to that point. Soon, Sarah's reforms resulted in an ascendant Clan Wolverine, a clan with bountiful logistical capacity, abundant supplies, happy people, wealthy coffers, and technology.
So, happiness, surplus, food. These are the enemies of the people. These are the enemies of the people.
Passing their peers. But this drew the sort of attention that, in clanner society, was unacceptable. Over time, Nicholas Kerensky assigned several clans to watch Wolverine for deviancy. And when Sarah McEvedy tried to ferret out these spies, the other clans took it as a sign she was guilty.
Oh, of course.
For they believed, who would be afraid of being watched if they were doing what they should? The other clans saw Clan Wolverine as a dangerous antagonist and a destabilizing influence on the foundation of their entire society.
If you have nothing to fear, you have nothing to
Wolverine
hide.
was displaying unclan-like behavior. Many
Black
of the
Wolf,
other
you have a nice
clans
night, bud.
began to become openly critical and belligerent of Clan Wolverine in Grand Council sessions. Sarah wasn't an idiot. She knew she was being singled out. She kept doing what she thought was best for her people and refused to amend her ways, instead perhaps hoping to provide for an alternative path to greatness, a step away from the pseudo-spiritual nonsense of Nicholas Kerensky. She wanted to demonstrate that by using good reason, sound logic, and this thing called actual wisdom, a clan could improve in ways that were mutually beneficial to all. Where other clans were content to stratify their society and burden it with endless rules, ritual, honor, and ceremony, she preached cooperation and reasonable conduct that they could all handsomely profit from.
Somebody stop her, she's making sense!
Needless to say, the disregard of Nicholas Kerensky and his supposed wisdom made Clan Wolverine many enemies. Things started to get truly bad in July of 2823. In July, an old Brian cache was found within Wolverine territory. The abandoned stockpile of military equipment was a tremendous boon for Clan Wolverine, and as such, it was something the other clans greatly desired. Clan Jade Falcon tried to win the cache through a trial of possession, and Jade Falcon lost. Badly. But, being sore losers, Clan Jade Falcon brought up the issue of the cache to the Grand Council in August of 2823.
So it's only a problem because you lost, eh?
You see, it just wasn't a small arms stockpile. It was an enormous arms stockpile. It contained, among other things, a multitude of nuclear ordnance. Due to that and goofy laws clanners have regarding such things, Nicholas Kerensky determined the cache would be split up through trials of possession to ensure everyone had a chance at taking ownership of at least a part. Sarah McEvedy tried to protest using a trial of refusal. She failed, but then she made a mistake. I don't blame her for this. Above all, she was plainly tired of Nicholas Kerensky's shit. But rather than sit on her hands and pretend to obey, she called him on it, publicly, to the Grand Council and all assembled. She stated it was impossible to have any fair treatment for her clan due to the interference of others. She pointed out the espionage conducted against her clan and provided evidence of being watched, of being relentlessly spied upon, and being manipulated. She pointed out that the clanner intelligence service, what would someday be called the Watch, was organized principally to work in an antagonistic manner toward the Wolverines, and sadly, she wasn't wrong. So rather than try to appease everyone, or bend the knee to Nicholas and all those arranged against her, she told them to fuck off. And fortunate for us, a recording of this very exchange survives to this day, raising questions as to its source.
My honorable friend, the Khan from Clan Wolverine, continues to ignore the decisions of this body as verified by the recent trial. I do not care that the cache is of the 331st Royal Division, her father's command. This body is agreed that the caches are a resource belonging to the clans as a whole. In the old order, her paternal loyalty would be commended. But this is not the old order. We are the clans, We stand on our own merits, not those of our ancestors.
I'm sorry, motherfucker. Who are you? Who are you? What is your last name? What is your position?
Except you.
I beg your pardon.
I said, except you. You seem perfectly happy to bask in your father's achievements. He was a visionary who saw justice and peace for all. You seek control.
Khan McEvity, you go too far.
Do I? I know many of you in this chamber found our Ilkhan's actions to secure control of the Pentagon population offensive. The Star League did not believe in torture and brutality. Those are the tools of power-hungry madmen. Is that what you have become, Nicholas Kerensky? A power-hungry madman?
Silence! McEvity, Khan of Clan Wolverine. I, Nicholas Kerensky, Khan of the clans, do call for a trial of grievance. By our law, you may...
Hang your laws. Does the truth hurt so much, Nicholas?
Fellow Khans, our colleague is clearly overwrought. I call for a vote of censure. Lawmaster Ward, please.
Don't bother, Nicholas. I'll leave. In fact, we'll all leave. Clan Wolverine no longer recognizes the authority of the Ilkhan or the Grand Council. From this point forward, we are an independent power. We decide our own fate, fairly and according to the morals and standards of the Star League.
You cannot do this.
I can, and I have.
Arrest her!
If you want to face us, fine. But we will not hold back. Prepare to reap the whirlwind.
Ha!
My Khans, we face a serious decision.
And that's sadly all we have. That the record survived says a great deal. For the facts of it are certainly dangerous to Nicholas Kerensky's legacy. From what spotty records we have, we know there was a brief standoff. They left without shooting anybody. But what followed proves the point that Nicholas Kerensky had no room in his heart for dissidence to his brave new world or challenges to his authority. The clanners reacted as you might to this news. Nukes were involved, as was the duplicity on the part of other clans. Clan Wolverine was more or less framed for some very dark deeds, and accordingly took the brunt of the blame. Nicholas Kerensky swiftly called for a trial of annihilation. According to the clans, Wolverine ceased to exist. They purged them from memory. They became the unnamed clan. And to this day, it's such a deep psychological scar that calling a clanner a Wolverine, or even comparing them to one inadvertently, is such an insult that it will start a brawl. What really happened to Wolverine, though, will be discussed in a future episode.
Please?
Believe me, the story is far deeper than I can cover here. And now, let's just say the road didn't end there, and that when the smoke had cleared, Nicholas Kerensky discovered a good chunk of the clan missing, along with some ships from the mothballed Fleetson system. Among them, a number of warships. But as I said, that's a story for another time. I only bring up Clan Wolverine to
Gallon, that was awful.
highlight one point. A brave new world requires sacrifice. And Nicholas Kerensky was intent on making others bear that responsibility.
Of course!
From here on out, disobedience would mean death. It would mean culling. It would mean control through secret police, through repression and punishment. This would be a society built on law, order, tradition, and most importantly, a very careful definition of honor.
Of course.
All of those would be defined by Nicholas Kerensky's own twisted whims. Tragically, Clanners didn't learn from the Wolverine problem. Unaddressed and unresolved differences between fiercely competitive clan structures would continue to plague the nascent civilization for some time. From the records I have, I can firmly say that Clan Wolverine wasn't the only clan that disappeared in this time period. They snuffed the Widowmaker clan as well. Again, there's more to it than that. You see, clanners just can't play rock, paper, scissors to solve a dispute. Nor do they lecture very well.
That's not nice.
We agreed you'd get to talk. Once. You said bargained and done.
That is fair.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyways, clanners tend to solve disagreements by having a trial. A trial involving combat. And if people disagreed beyond that, they follow it up with a war. The end of the Widowmaker clan began with what was supposed to be what the clanners called a trial of absorption, wherein one clan gets sponged up by another.
Okay.
Widowmaker Khan Cal Jorgensen was dueling Wolf Khan Winson, and the winner would determine the fate of the trial and all those who followed them. Clan Wolf was winning, and fairly, so the story goes, which made a few mech warriors from Clan Widowmaker rather angry.
Okay.
Those mech warriors decided to step in and sort the situation out their way. And so Nicholas Kerensky stepped in to remind everyone of the rules on October the 7th, 2834. In what is essentially a slap fight over who gets to wave what flag over what stuff. A stray shot from Cal Jorgensen's Highlander relegated Nicholas Kerensky to the past tense. The man who took his father's dream and used it to found the clans died as a mere referee in a fight that the culture he engineered demanded of the situation. Clanners took this death poorly and
He took a stray.
decided to work through their wounded feelings in the typical manner. They annihilated most of the Widowmakers and let Clan Wolf absorb what remained. Now down to 18 clans, the assembled Khans of each joined ranks continued the work laid down by their founder. In their own way, they tried to fix the issues of the past through what means they found
Cosmic
appropriate,
karma at work, yeah.
based on an archaic sense of honor, ritualized combat, and frankly, medieval combat trials for everything ranging from promotions to who get what shit. The clanner civilization would grow. Strangely enough, through their combined efforts, they began to finally prosper. There is an ancient Terran joke that sums up my feelings of Nicholas Kerensky's legacy, and it goes like this.
Okay.
It is said that none should speak badly about the dead.
Okay.
Nicholas Kerensky was dead. That is good. Now that you're done sighing, let's move on. With all this set in motion and new ways replacing the old, clanners began to enjoy a period of peace and prosperity. Without Nicholas Kerensky's direct influence, meddling, or troublesome interpretations of his father's wishes, clanners finally had the right and freedom to choose what was best for them. From this point forward, you can see each clan starting to develop more in the shadow of their clan's leadership and foundational warrior caste than Nicholas Kerensky's direct mold. With this, each clan was free to develop a sense of identity, something that continues to this day. After widespread expansion throughout their territories, and now with the freedom to self-determine to a scale never thought before possible, there was a period of time which is called the Golden Century.
Okay. So basically, after they sat there and nuked a clan for doing exactly what they later did. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay. That makes absolutely perfect sense. Intermission, guys. $300% more goob. Top 10 list of underrated dinner choices. Let's go. Bacon, bacon, bacon wrapped steak, bacon, 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 and bacon. top 10 list of underrated dinner choices. Hot dogs. Texans like to be made to feel special. Tells us celebrity his birthday, has trouble with all the newfound attention from strangers, and feels horribly awkward at social gatherings. He favors a good job message at most. Good job. Aww. I'm not going to say I saved my own emails, but I do. Tuck Davian, Tassa Davis, and many other kind members of the BattleTech community have gone out of the way to show Tex he's loved. Tex doesn't know what to do about this. Any tips will be appreciated because he often reacts with, holy shit. Solid 7. Good stuff. Bacon for dinner is awesome, Pilo. Pink bikini. Hey, C30. Battle him of the Mech Warrior. Oh, he's a good DM. Nice. Nice. Texas interview started that was so humbled he was even approached. He just strongly feels like he's just another voice in the choir, not really that all remarkable. Andrew, thank you, bud. Hope you're enjoying the video, man. Tex does some great videos. He definitely does. I recommend Big Red 40K's vid on the Tarian Concordia if you ever feel the need to learn more about them. Tex is in that one as well. Dude, awesome. Right now, there is a lot of stuff that I am going to be trusting the community on as far as this goes. Far Cry 5, where just a cop is actually a cop and a Navy veteran. But thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it, bud. That's 5 hours long. Holy God. Discount Dan was a real-life firefighter. The Bean Bandits. Digging with hands in the Prodigy Zomboid. All right, Nathan, you have a nice night, bud. Yeah. Yeah. It wouldn't take Project Mayhem, yes. Made a mountain of corn dogs and tendies while he edited the Blackjack episode. Oh my God. This episode took almost 2 months to make. The long ones generally do. Under best case scenario, they take 800 man hours to make. Sometimes they take upwards of 1,200. This was one of those. Thanks for being patient. Dude, I know the pain. I know the pain. Like, part of the reason why the lore channel has kind of gone into dormancy is because it's so hard for me to find time to dedicate that much time to putting together a video. It's a huge amount of time and effort. And like today, like, as soon as I get done with this, I have other things to do for the channel. And like last night, I think oh God, just in the middle of everything, I know the pain. I just remember for a while there when I was really churning and burning, I was putting together a video about one every 1 to 2 weeks while keeping this channel going as strong as it had been. And quite simply put, there were weeks at a time when I didn't get into bed before 4 o'clock in the morning and wake up at 8:30 to go to work. I was a little bit insane. True. Yeah, the Inner could fit inside the Imperium in that case. Everything BattleTech, guys. I will say this, no matter how much I'm enjoying BattleTech right now, the entire BattleTech universe versus any Power 140K would get raffle stomped hard because of the way they actually pursue warfare. They would just get raffle stomped brutally hard. Even the Tau, who I completely dismiss, would utterly stomp out the BattleTech universe. But that's because of the way... two things. One, the BattleTech universe isn't exactly... isn't nearly as technologically advanced as some of the, not some, all of the societies. And two, their method of warfare is just, kind of, I don't even know really how to say it, to be honest. The Mechanicus really wouldn't salivate over the mechs, to be honest with you. They might salivate over some of the tech, but they wouldn't salivate over the mechs because your standard knight would just beat the brakes off an Atlas. I'm just saying. Yeah, that's true, Azram. That's what I'm saying. I mean, but this is I love this hobby. I love this franchise. It's absolutely awesome. Yeah, true. 40K has Titans that dwarf assault mechs. That's true. Teaching computers how to earn the shackles of humanity. Because you have to have 45 ACP. I knew I was going to like Tex because he's a Knight 1011 guy. I'm just saying. Now, that Chaka Rock I could get behind. And is that a Mosa Nagant? It is. 2 World Wars, you're damn right. Mr. Clicky. Oh, nice. Yeah, the Ares Convention will be considered a checklist. Dude, General Motors reached out in reference. Dear Randolph P. Checkers and Mike the editor. Aztec B1J and Mad 3R, ton of money. Litigation forfeiture of your elevator's hot dog supply. GM brands and hot dogs. Future stompy bipedal murder assault platforms. GM doesn't respond to bad Charles. P.S. Just stop asking about self-sustaining fusion reactions. Is this a legitimate thing? Oh my god. That's awesome. That is awesome. DS9 was highly underrated. It was massively underrated. True, Voyager. Voyager and Enterprise were the weakest Star Trek shows until Discovery. They are not willing to watch Picard yet. I don't blame them. Nice. Praise him. I wouldn't be surprised, Mordrick. Goon Station. I feel this about Warhammer 40k. I swear to God, we never get good games. Like we never get good, consistent games. We get like these amazing gems, and then we get trash. Muppet Show. Yeah, Space Marine 2, Mechanicus, Rogue Trader.
Without Nicholas Kerensky's overbearing hands on the wheel of state, the clanners truly began to come into their own.
Okay.
Long held back by a man who, as established, busied himself with the endless imaginative redressing of his father's work and wisdom, the clanners were now free for once to determine their own fates, and what they would create are works of legend. This era would be a high point for the clans in prosperity, growth, and technological achievement. Clan Coyote, well known for engineering and technological expertise from a lauded science caste, would field the first Omni-Mech by 2854. Battle armor would come into existence in 2868 when Clan Wolf thought that mech pilots looked a bit too comfortable around infantry and decided to do something about that. In this era, some clans absorbed others. Some fought each other in mock battles, or very real ones. Throughout, there was a restoration of peace, dignity, and honor that would define them for generations afterward. No longer in the shadow of a despotic madman, each clan began to grow according to their own needs, demonstrating again, in my opinion, that Nicholas's death was a necessary step in the evolution of the clans from what they were into what they are. Without his direct input, each clan had to interpret for themselves the wishes of the founders, and accordingly, what were small deviations from the norm slowly manifested into unique cultural developments. I'll name a few here for the sake of argument, in your own interest, but I feel that each clan could easily be a lecture on their own in the future. Again, let me know. Clan Wolf was the chosen clan of Nicholas Kerensky post-Operation Klondike. And since that point, they have been a power player in clan politics. Over time, they have demonstrated flexibility on and off the battlefield and frequently act when decisiveness is necessary to achieve victory. Clan Wolf is pretty much your stereotypical clanner. Honor-bound, intelligent, shrewd, and cunning. Some are die-hard traditionalists, where others are certainly more forward-thinking. Clan Wolf is responsible for the annihilation of Clan Wolverine and the absorption of Clan Widowmaker. They are the crazy bastards who developed good battle armor and applied it in their tactical doctrine with frightening efficiency. Post-death of Nicholas Kerensky, Clan Wolf embraced the flexibility of Clan Wolverine's system of civilian freedom, or at least tried. This resulted in vast economic expansion and a hell of a lot of opportunity. Clan Wolf frequently tends to seek trials to acquire new tech whenever their own science caste falls short. For instance, they made a successful trial to gain access to elemental genomic programs from Clan Hell's horses and then applied that to their own power armor technology. But where trials would be unsuitable,
Clan Ultra Smurf, nice.
Free trade to acquire what it needs. Thanks to relaxed economic policy, Clan Wolf certainly has the purchasing power to get what it needs. Most of all, and doubly so after Nicholas Kerensky's demise, Clan Wolf has become the clan of compromise. They are the voice of reason more often than not, trying
Say what?
to balance the survival of the clans with the wants of the individual, and often trying to see the long-term impact of any major decision. Some resent this as fence-sitting, but with their success rate, I would argue this is more prudence than indecision.
Okay.
Clan Jade Falcon is their polar opposite. They are strictly tradition and honor bound, and being founded by Elizabeth Hazen of the Black Watch, their foundation was established by very high standards. But she was one of the 4 founders, truth be told. Daniel Matloff was another. He was a fighter pilot of note attached to the 11th Royal BattleTech Division, and amusingly, he joined the Exodus after inheriting a ducal title in the Inner Sphere and then deciding that leaving was better than staying. Carly Kaza was another founder. He was one of the few who was a dedicated infantryman and a veteran of not only the Ameris Civil War, but an internment camp of the same regime.
Oh,
He
boy.
joined up to put his tortured past behind him. The last of the founders was Lisa Buhalan, who was a guerrilla with Hazen from her days on Terra fighting Ameris. From these individuals, a clan leadership emerged, and from their strict observations on discipline, honor, and tradition, a clan was formed around those ideals. A clan that, well, fits the worst nightmare scenario for the Inner Sphere. When you think of the bloodthirsty, single-minded, crusading clan archetype, Clan Jade Falcon is one of the 2 you are thinking about. After the death of Nicholas Kerensky, Clan Jade Falcon embraced conservatism and became the first among the clans to strictly adhere to Nicholas's teachings. Whereas Clan Wolf embraced freedoms for its civilian population, Clan Jade Falcon saw it as blasphemy and clamped down on any notion of individual expression of freedom or desire for change. The strength of Clan Jade Falcon, however, is not from military discipline or its stranglehold on its civilian population. Its strength, above all things, is its banking system.
Oh.
Being shrewd, cunning, and calculating, Clan Jade Falcon bankers are terrifying by all reports. Despite setbacks and the loss of colonies under their control over concerns of civilians not liking the Emerald Parakeet or its demands, the Jade Falcon's
Emerald
banking
Parakeet.
system has ensured vast power and enormous wealth. So much so that a popular saying among the clans is as sharp as the talons of a falcon banker. Clan Ghost Bear is probably the clan I like the most.
Okay.
That is to say, I tolerate them more than everyone else because they're the most reasonable. If Clan Wolf were accused of being fence-sitters, Clan Ghost Bear would be the we shall see clan. Ghost Bear is cautious, never jumping into a fray or political jumble unless they deem it necessary, which is seldom to say the least. Also to note, they're the most human of the clans. They have a strong sense of family, doing away with many clanner observations on such structures as being unclan-like. In fact, a lot of what Clan Ghost Bear does in regard to interpersonal conduct and family structure is probably the most recognizable among the clans. While distrustful of outsiders, they do help each other and do recognize the good in a stranger if they are honorable enough.
Okay.
They also have a sense of humor.
Really? I think that will be a very dangerous thing, because that means warping the language sometimes.
Prove my point, I turn your attention to the events of December 3051. When Clan Ghost Bear invaded the planet of Sheliak, the panicked defenders accepted the challenge, but specified the contest would be measured by the outcome of an ancient Terran game. Football was its name. American football. The idea was that the clanners wouldn't know about this ancient Terran game and would lose, therefore leaving Sheliak untouched by the war. As it turns out, they were fucking wrong. Ghost Bear not only loves American football, considering it their best sport, but they also field a team of 8-foot-tall elementals.
Literally, this was Space Jam on the gridiron, okay? And no, Bugs Bunny isn't there to save you, and you don't have Michael Jordan. You're fucking hosed, okay?
Sheliak lost 84-3. I think the clanners let them have that 3 out of honor, respect, and pity. During the post-game show, as American football traditionally requires, the planetary government of Sheliak quietly but formally ceded control and lowered its flags. Needless to say, they're pretty alright. For clanners, that is. Clan Diamond Shark is an interesting study. Once upon a time, they were Clan Sea Fox. That is until they saw a sea fox get eaten by a diamond shark. Nature is fucking cool like that. And I suppose that story, if apocryphal as many of their stories may be, demonstrates the nature of Clan Diamond Shark. Ultimately, they're very flexible. Clan Diamond Shark is probably the most progressive of the clans. They permit not only individual freedom, but universal suffrage. Their economic policies are terrifyingly effective, and they have become labeled by their fellow clans as the Merchant Clan. This title is granted out of jealousy, mind you, because Clan Diamond Shark's business practices have made it a shitload of fucking money, and they take pride in it. Clan Diamond Shark is not as willing to make a contest of things using force of arms if they can negotiate, and they're damn good at it. If there are monopolies on resources, Clan Diamond Shark ensures they are theirs, from which they reap vast profits. Clan Diamond Shark is an example of what a clan can be by interpreting the rules in such a way as to remain compliant, if barely, with the foundational wishes of Nicholas, while also seeking new horizons, if only for fat stacks of cash.
Hells yeah, son!
Nicholas Kerensky's wild new civilization, governed by warriors and ancient notions of hard-won battlefield honor, was firmly on a far different path than any, even Nicholas, could have ever predicted. And while it was strange as all hell, this new society was tailor-made to survive the rigors of deep space and adopted wholesale by what was once and distantly the SLDF. But that's really only the beginning. For they remembered the words of Alexander Kerensky, and they had never forgotten the inner sphere.
All roads lead to Terra.
Despite the exodus and years away from the civilization they fled generations ago, clanners were still fixated on the old world and whatever may have happened to it. For generations now, they had been told the stories of the Exodus, of being cast out of a seeming Eden despoiled by the corrupt and tyrannical great houses of the former Star League. Through their trials and tribulations, through the changes they had endured, and the lessons hard won, above all things, they remembered the Hidden Hope Doctrine, as it became called, Alexander Kerensky's order that one day they might return to save the Inner Sphere, became a topic of debate. From their youth, generations of clanners had been taught that the Inner Sphere was once an Eden of endless, verdant worlds, spoiled and ruined by corrupt nobility that had cast them out. They had been forced on an exodus to save what they could of Star League. And from Nicholas Kerensky's version of this history, they were the rightful people to set things right. Seeing themselves as the true inheritors of the Inner Sphere.
Is he going to talk about Clan Smoke Jaguar at some point? Because I really, really want to learn more about Smoke Jaguar at this point.
And with sufficient power now at their disposal, deep in the heart of every clanner, there was an urge to return one day to restore the Inner Sphere to the glorious era of the Star League. Clan society had two competing viewpoints on this matter. One faction had believed that they needed to saddle up, ride on back to the Inner Sphere, and reestablish the Star League at any cost with themselves as leaders. Their aim was to guide a society back to its roots, its noble roots, directly under their care and watchful governance. So what if they had to re-engineer their culture and smash anyone who opposed them? It was their calling to set this right. In Kerensky's name, at least.
Yeah, in
This
Kerensky's
faction
name.
would become known as the Crusaders. The opposing viewpoint wasn't really all that different at the beginning. They still believed in taking over the inner sphere, but with differences on how to accomplish what followed. They believed their mission should be to save the inner sphere from any outside threat or inside destabilizing faction, but also to maintain a separate and distinct culture from them, and allowing the inner sphere to do the same. This faction became known as the Wardens. Back and forth, these two factions would debate fiercely, even fighting among themselves for the right to lead an invasion. In 2980, the clans would motion to convene a grand council to do just that. However, the Wardens prevailed in a motion led by the heads of Clans Wolf and Coyote. But this balance of opinion wouldn't last. The Wardens knew that people were getting antsy, and fulfilling one's purpose is kind of the point of living the way they had. Debate would continue furiously, violently at times, until the dawn of the third millennium. With immense pressure pushing toward invasion of the inner sphere, Clan Wolf came up with a compromise to buy time. The compromise went like this. To invade, you need intelligence. So what if the clans were to send in a group of lowly free-birth warriors with outmoded equipment and ancient mechs to the inner sphere to pose as mercenaries and over time work for the various inner sphere houses to gauge their war-making capacity. By fighting for each of the great houses, the mercenary group would learn not only about the militaries of the inner sphere, but the political situation, and most importantly, how soft they might have grown. This group was called the Wolf's Dragoons. They left for the inner sphere on a mission of espionage and intelligence gathering for the invasion to come. But the inner sphere has a way of changing people. Over time, they reported less and less back to the clan homeworlds. They seemingly went native in 3019 and began secretly preparing the inner sphere for the clan invasion they knew would be inevitable.
So basically, the Wolf Dragoons turned their backs on. They went in there, they settled in, and then they just started trying to prepare people for the... They went native. Okay.
I plan on covering them more at some point in the future, but needless to say, the news of their apparent defection had some rather powerful consequences. The Crusaders back in clan space took the news of their apparent desertion poorly and renewed their call for an invasion. By the time they'd heard of the Fourth Succession War and the War of 3039, clanners were biting at the bit to jump in and save the inner sphere from itself. The Wardens believed that perhaps in time, the clans would have accepted just sitting way out in the deep periphery and minding their own fucking business, content to argue endlessly about one day maybe going back to the inner sphere to sort them out.
Right.
However, tragically, that's not what happened. In summer of 3048, the Outbound Light, a Comstar exploration vessel, jumped onto Huntress, the capital world of Clan Smoke Jaguar. They'd been sent on a long-range recon to find out whatever had happened to the SLDF. They had no idea what they were getting into. Clan Smoke Jaguar interrogated the crew and became convinced this vessel was the precursor to an invasion from the inner sphere.
Oh boy.
They brought select, skewed evidence extracted from the rigorous interrogation of the Outbound Light's crew to the council chambers. And within a month, the clanners voted to invade the inner sphere before anyone came looking for their lost ship.
Oh boy.
And with that, the invasion was on, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Imagine if you will, you go looking for somebody only to find the worst ones out there. Nice!
Above any other consideration, even the most amateur student of history will note that exceptional hubris is never going to end well. In trying to correct the issues of the old world, the clans discarded what they thought they no longer needed. However, with education and training focused as it was, and ambition ingrained into everything they did, they forgot the necessary lessons of the past, to include the madness of human nature. Clanners believe their society to be based on honor, but I feel it's based on carefully constructed lies. But I guess on that basis, they're not that different from you and I. General Alexander Kerensky was to his people a George Washington or a Cincinnatus. Nicholas Kerensky, on the other hand, was Jim Jones, thinking he was Alexander the Great. And the society he built was founded on some rather flawed concepts regarding the inner sphere. The Clanner invasion was doomed from the start for many reasons. The vast distances involved made a 1,000-light-year logistics train a damn nightmare, leading to insufficient equipment being brought to the front. They held back their full force, despite having vast advantages in technological superiority. They refused to employ their weapons to full effect, and in the name of honor, they bid away every advantage they had. They thought they could take on the inner sphere by playing fair, by holding back and bidding low numbers to fight for the sake of honor. And throughout, they disregarded the disproportionate numbers arrayed against them. They didn't know how to take an opponent who thought that rules and war were mutually exclusive concepts. They were unprepared for the realities of the inner sphere, as they had built for themselves a vision of it which was grounded in mythology.
Oh boy.
Further, we must consider that a civilization is a social contract between those living, those dead, and those yet to be born. A civilization is essentially a plan to build a better future, with a baton of statehood placed into the next generation's hands to carry forward as best they're able. Many nations transfer power generationally with a warning to mind your history and never repeat the terrible mistakes of the past. Their traditions primed them to believe they were the best of the best, and that by holding true to what they were taught, they were undefeatable. The Clanners have a history that's incomplete, a history of lies and revisionism. It's a history that deletes that which does not serve its purposes, and in doing so does away with important lessons that may preserve the future. A nation needs to...
Anybody that does not learn from the past is doomed to fall victim to it. They should have known better.
learn from its mistakes, its missteps, its horrible errors. It needs to see where it fucked up, learn, and move on. With a distorted understanding of who they were and a warped view of their own history, the clanners were primed for failure. From broken men and women, the clans were founded. From a madman's creative interpretation of his father's will, they were ordained with a noble quest, and on this basis alone, they waged war. War to the clanners has strict rules of conduct based on honor. Unfortunately for them, war is about adaptability and their stubborn adherence to honor-bound ways that would ruin them. With every battle, the inner sphere learned. With every battle, the clans grew weaker. The road to their pursuit of honor and glory above all else was littered with corpses and broken machines. I find clanner culture itself to be a bad parody. Even a poor caricature maintains core elements of similarity with the subject matter. This was something else entirely. This was a civilization built on a cursory, amateur study of history, wherein a brain-damaged nutbag with a messiah complex took a strong look at Mao's 20th century state and said, yeah, that'll work. And like most failed police
Fuck it, you'll do!
states, he said this was to preserve and protect his people from ruin, which he aimed to accomplish by repeating the mistakes of the past. The clan war machine is a contradiction at best. It's a civilization that builds the strongest, nastiest, most useful tools and then bids them away. It's a civilization that has an absolute technological lead on an opponent and then refuses to use its full force to preserve an abstract notion like honor. It was, by the start of the invasion, a civilization run by warriors without actual, meaningful theater-scale warfighting experience against a vastly numerically superior opponent. A war they lost the moment the Inner Sphere realized that to the clans, war has rules. I care enough at this juncture to tell you point blank, if one thing is goddamn certain, total war has no rules.
This is very fucking true. It is something we've forgotten. Our modern society has completely just forgotten this, even though total war is still within living memory. I hope to God I don't live long enough to know total war as my grandparents knew it, as great-grandparents knew it. Because total war in this technologically advanced society would be an utter nightmare beyond comprehension.
Total war has the guy who survives. The guy who's more cruel, more cunning, more imaginative, and slightly crazier than his opponent. History has shown us, time and again, that those who win total war are those who are willing to change the game, to invent new ways of destroying their enemy, and then apply them in short order to accomplish this goal. And this lesson was free to all people who could crack a book and ask questions. But that's the ultimate tragedy here. By rewriting history, lessons are forgotten. By restricting freedom of thought, of choice, of expression, positive outcomes are diminished. The Inner Sphere's greatest achievement was that after 4 succession wars, they had learned how to fight and how not to. After 4 succession wars, they knew what their territory was worth and how to defend it. After 4 succession wars, the Inner Sphere knew that war had few, if any, rules. And those rules were maintained only so long as the balance of power was maintained. When the clans dismissed the Inner Sphere, as their history had taught them to, they made a critical fucking error. Pre-clan invasion, nobody in the Inner Sphere, save Comstar, knew what an Omnimech was. Almost immediately, after the start of the conflict, Inner Sphere technicians and scientists were reverse engineering clan tech and would have Omnimechs of their own. With every battle, the clans grew weaker. With every battle, the Inner Sphere learned. Lost technology was rapidly reintroduced, and examples of the finest equipment ever made was being used against those who wielded it. Further, I posit this. I firmly believe that Nicholas Kerensky had been a pretender, a man who'd never won so much as a fistfight, being the least likely of the Exodus to rise to command. And yet he did. He had fashioned himself as a messianic figure from a noble lineage and retouched history to reinforce his vision. But with as much as he took from his father, he forgot 2 things. Firstly, how to deal with failure.
Right.
There's an ancient Terran saying that the measure of a man's success is how he moves from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. General Alexander Kerensky had known failure.
Right.
He had failed to see the true aim of Ameris until it was too late. He had failed to instill wisdom enough into young Richard Cameron to prevent what happened. He had failed to unify the Inner Sphere. He had failed to save it from itself, and yet he had never once given up. He maintained his poise and nobility of character despite every challenge to his continued command, and he never stopped trying. He made the best choices he could, for better or worse. Nicholas Kerensky had never had to deal with failure, and saw greatness as an inherited trait.
Right.
Rather than learn from a mistake, he erased existence of it. When someone challenged him, he had them destroyed. When people refused to toe the line, he made them enemies of the people. He wanted to be infallible, and made certain history proved him right, even if he had to write it himself. But I did say he forgot two things.
What's that?
The second of which being the lasting error insofar as history is concerned. He had forgotten the nature of war. Total war, true war, uninhibited by morals, laws, or restraint. Total war does not forgive mistakes lightly. It's not merely a question of who has better fighters or equipment or honor, but who has more weapons and ammo and bodies to throw at the problem. Which leads to another ancient Terran saying, children study tactics, men study logistics.
Yep.
Whoever brings to the theater of war the greater means by which to wage it is going to have the upper hand. Declaring war on the inner sphere was a foolish endeavor, spurred on by a sense of manifest destiny, itself brought on by the belief they were fulfilling their purpose. They started an invasion against an enemy that vastly outnumbered them. They began a conquest with 1,000 light-year logistics chain using equipment both supremely expensive to replace and slow to build. Their warriors were great and mighty, and truly capable of fighting many times their number, but they were few, and none had seen an actual grand-scale conflict, nor waged a war in the inner sphere. Their sense of honor and belief in strict rules governing behavior on and off the battlefield further destroyed their war efficiency. They bid away their greatest assets and at times vast material advantages to have a fair fight, or at least feel better when they lost.
Right.
They bid away warships and entire war fleets when the great houses had none. They bid away elite forces to have some semblance of fairness in the fight, and behind the scenes, they bid against each other, even going so far as to work with the enemy in order to shame their rivals or sabotage their ambition. And by placing honor and strict obedience to their beliefs above the actual conduct of war, they paid for it, and dearly. Hell, their invasion was delayed a year. A full year mid-invasion, they stopped dead in their tracks when a brave Rasselhug pilot kamikazed their command ship and killed the Ilkhan, where any reasonable army would have named a successor from the chain of command and pressed on. Their system of belief required they return to the clan homeworld and choose a new leader, which they did.
That's stupid.
And they didn't learn from this. They kept waging the war the way they had been taught was acceptable. With every battle, they taught the inner sphere their weaknesses and failed to adapt to their own shortcomings. Despite lengthy reconnaissance, they drew ignorant conclusions from the evidence. They dismissed the leaders of the inner sphere as pretenders, barbarians, and wretched fools. And this spectacular hubris would forge their defeat on an inconsequential world in 3052. If one thing the clanners believed was true, it would be the assumption that the warlords of the inner sphere were barbarians, and boys and girls, if they hadn't been at the time of the Exodus, they sure as fuck were after 4 succession wars. The clanners had played at war. The inner sphere had waged one for 250 straight fucking years, and they had a body count in the billions to show for it. The clanners assumed that these people would bend the knee to them, and they were wrong. But that being said, amazingly enough, the clans did unify the inner sphere against them. Lastly, I hold the opinion that great men are not born, but are a product of a life spent making numerous mistakes and overcoming tragedy. History has shown effective leadership in war comes from understanding your opponent, not dismissing them as lesser men than you are. I personally find that once you dismiss someone and relegate them to less than your full attention, they tend to rise up and surprise you. In war, surprises can be rather spectacular.
Right.
And the clanners sure as shit learned that lesson in full when they received an epic ass-kicking from a jumped-up telecom company in 3052. Because when you underestimate your opponents, sometimes you get folked. And on that note, I'll close with a few historical notes for those curious.
Okay.
The clanners continue to celebrate the 24th of August as Founding Day, 2 days short of my own birthday.
Yay!
As that was when General Kerensky said the Exodus was now at an end. It is of note that this is inaccurate, as the SLDF Science Corps surveyed the worlds until September, just in case the planets were chock full of nasty parasites, disease, or plants that gave you explosive gut snakes. I must also note that the Prince Eugen was kept in orbit of the Clanner homeworld until 3073 as a prison ship, and a stern reminder that dissension is one of the worst crimes a Clanner can commit. That it was until some guys called the Society took it over and blew it up.
Yay!
That's called the War of Reaving, and we'll get to that someday.
Okay.
The Clanners still celebrate May the 26th as Clan Liberation Day to mark the end of Operation Klondike. Nicholas Kerensky himself said of the event, quote, "Our victories here have proved the rightness of the way of the clans. Let it always be so among those of the true faith. Let these few words always announce our coming and portend our victory." These words would underline a clan belief in their way of life as a matter of faith and purpose, until Tukey had reminded them that the only thing scarier than eugenics-born, fanatical warriors hailing from an insane police state from beyond the periphery is a jumped-up telecom company. And on that note, remember to pay your bills, fucko. Anyways, that about wraps it up for now. Next time, I have something different. We need to get out of here anyways. This space station is going to hell.
This is the head of security. Martial law starts now.
Oh.
Get the all cap.
I will watch the credits, Alan. Thank you.
If you run, you only die, Nick. I am God. I am God.
And yet, something about this place seems so familiar.
Hey, Discount Dan here with a new and exciting service.
Oh, Christ.
But first, let me ask you something to set up the sales pitch. You ever get tired of morons saying war never changes? Well, you know why? Because they're fucking wrong. War always changes. And just so you're ready for them, I got this new program to help you with the changing pace of war in a modern world.
Okay.
Introducing Rent-A-Nuke.
Rent-A-Nuke.
Your problems busting your chops? Boom. Handle. Got a problem with local tax authorities trying to test your freedoms? Boom. Handle. Got a problem with weirdos in the periphery saying batch-all and shit? Boom. Handle. Space Wizards trying to tell you about this Blake guy? Boom. Handle. The enemy has numbers, technology, and honor. Honor's for losers. With Rent-A-Nuke, it's just as easy as boom, handle.
There you
With
go.
Rent-A-Nuke, the process is simple. Send me money, all your money, and I'll rent you a nuke. If you don't need it anymore, just send it back. Just put that nuke in the mail and send it back, and I'll make sure it's taken care of.
Okay.
Probably. Maybe you only need a nuke for a bit so people will take you seriously. No worries. We got long-term and short-term rental programs, financing programs, and all that good stuff that totally legitimate rental programs typically have. Because we are one. I got all sorts of nukes. I got big nukes, small nukes, tactical nukes, everything from planet killers down to nuclear hand grenades. Or maybe they're rocks I painted radiation symbols on. Who cares? I got nuclear artillery shells, starship ordnance. Hell, I found a few briefcase models so you can even reenact the periphery uprising or get priority seating at Shoney's.
Oh.
Whatever you want, I got. Whatever you
Priority seating at Shoney's is no joke.
think you want, I got. Whatever you're uncomfortable buying, I will sell you. If you're on the fence about making a purchase, I will push you off of it. I will push you off of it because I'm here to help you make me money. I ain't saying that just because I found an enormous stockpile of mostly duds people have forgotten about. So come on down to Rent-A-Nuke. Located at the corner of Mind Your Fucking Business, I ain't gonna tell you where I am. Who are you, the cops? Why so many questions? Remember, for the sake of legal argument, I'm considered a joint stock corporation as a wholly owned subsidiary of an umbrella holding company registered in the periphery. Good luck with your lawsuit because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because I just made it up. Or did I? You can't tell. That's why I'm great. Anyways, Rent-A-Nuke. The best solution you never knew you needed. That's 25% off when you buy a dozen. Come on down today because I gotta move these fast. Just
Discount code not a scam 52.
remember, I'm Discount Dan because I fucking care. And I will always take your money, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Discount Dan assumes responsibility for irresponsible use of nuclear ordnance and include the destruction of large and small moons, planets, cars, trains, aerospace assets, legitimate governments and cities. Rhino Nuke is a wholly owned subsidiary of My Own Fucking Business LLC, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of How Do You Ask What I Do for a Living Incorporated, which is a shell corporation located far away from regular law and order. Yeet Seed, Cocaine, and Bachelor are registered trademarks of Discount Dan. By listening to this disclaimer, you are absolving Discount Dan of any blame or legal action. Compellants are not welcome under any circumstances as they can't be trusted with anything cool.
On the grim streets of Solaris 7, there's one cop too brutal to quit.
Okay.
I'm afraid you're under arrest. Turbo arrest.
Bitch, you're just an overgrown meter maid. I ain't afraid of your Humpty Dumpty ass stomping around all slow and shit. I park where I want. Fuck the police.
Yeah. Urban cop.
Populated by some of the most corrupt people in the inner sphere. One man is on a mission to set things right.
Yeah.
One AC-10 round at a time.
Hey, you can't arrest me. I park where I want. I'm Duncan fucking Fisher.
I can arrest anyone, actually. It says so on the badge.
Oh.
How is this even legal?
Because I'm the police. Again, it says so here on the badge.
Coming this summer to a projector near you, Urban Cop 4, The Reckoning of Murder Town. A mostly true Solaris 7 story of violence, mayhem, and mechs. By mostly true, I mean, we wrote this based on what a guy told us happens outside. We don't go out there. It looks scary and there's rain and stuff. Inside is cozy as hell.
Kitty.
Double R for, what the hell do these ratings mean anyhow?
Van Zant, Department of Extrasolar Activities. Okay.
Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the Van Zant Museum of Wonder and Entertainment. I'm Mayor Barnabas Wilberson, and I'd like to welcome you to our humble museum and its many exciting exhibits. We got all sorts of things you might like to see.
Okay.
Come see our Star League exhibit. We got a cup and a napkin.
Waited 30 minutes. No service. This planet is terrible. General Alexander Kerensky.
Nice.
Come see our pile of logs and driftwood we found in the river, what looks like celebrities. Come see our grilled cheese exhibit.
What?
We even got a room you can fart in if you want. It's just empty, so we said, why not?
Wow, this room is so cool.
Remember, Van Zant stands only because we've a 500-year history of being marginally relevant in most matters and strategically irrelevant. Consider us for your next visit to the periphery, and please disregard the pirates on our second moon.
Join the Van Sant Free State Militia to get a full pardon of any second-degree felony, a funnel cake, and a free hat. All right.
Hi, friends. I'm Dallas Houston, and I'm coming to you live from wacky Waco, Texas. And
Oh,
I'm here to
good
sell
God.
you a new car. Actually, we're all out of new cars. I'm here to sell you a used car. Nope, we ain't got none of those left either. Hey, you ever find yourself in need to set things on fire?
Yeah.
Well, do I have the deal for you?
Oh.
Introducing the Pocket Hibachi. It's a flamethrower that fits in your pocket. Here's how it works. You put the Pocket Hibachi in your pocket, and you wait until the moment comes.
Hey, it's me, your mother-in-law. I just want to show you the nephew.
Take no shit, give no shit. Just set things on fire with the Pocket Hibachi. Find things, burn things.
Yay!
Thanks to hydrazine propellant that even works underwater.
Oh.
That's right. Those fucking geese in the park are dead meat, buddy. Dead meat. Burn cars, burn houses, burn garbage, burn leaves, burn squirrels, burn
Star Trek Discovery on DVD. Yeah.
anything. Pocket Hibachi. Now only 5 easy payments of $99.99. But wait, there's more.
There's more?
Buy a Pocket Hibachi today and receive for free an unwelcome mat. Running on standard 220 plug and a patented copper weave finish, the unwelcome mat will Westinghouse the shit out of anything on your front porch.
Do, just gonna sell some Jesus. Let me just knock on.
Not today, creepy church people. Not today. Buy a Pocket Hibachi because the world sucks and you hate it.
Yes.
Howdy. You've reached Professor Tex. I'm probably in my office. I'm just avoiding someone I don't like.
Okay.
Leave me a message, and if I don't call back, it's probably you.
Professor Tex, this is Blaine Pardo from the New Avalon Institute of Science. I'd like to ask you to kindly quit referring to an ejection seat as a yeet seat. My students are taking your distance education courses and are picking up some bad manners, and I know this is all your fault.
Nice.
It's not too much to ask. I backed you up on that always shoot Capellans thing back in the day. You owe me one, I think. Also, I ran
Why would he owe you for telling you to do the obvious?
into your ex-wife, and she still wants to kill you. But, weirdly enough, I think she misses you. It's kind of strange. Good luck with all that. Who'd marry an elemental anyways? I know you like to drink, but holy hell, how did that ever happen? I mean, it had to involve ladders and harnesses and stuff. No wonder you hate clanners. Always hit me up later. I know you're busy with that whole reminding people that the clans were named after something Nicholas Kerensky saw in a petting zoo, but still, give me a call back when you get a chance. We should do lunch.
Hey boss, this is Doves at Company B. Operation Get Clanners Off Your Ass went off well enough, but we had a bit of a snag. Turns out that Steiner group showed up. They're pretty pissed off about the whole luring them into a war zone to fight clanners on the premise there was an Oktoberfest thing. It wasn't an Oktoberfest, and boy did those guys look everywhere. They tore everything apart looking for the beer you promised. Clanners, buildings, orphanages, those guys are nuts. We did manage to distract them, but I'd say they may be paying us a visit before long. As it turns out, angry Steiners are far more dangerous than delusional clanners. Also terrifying enough, 4 atlases are pretty sneaky. After all, nobody can notice if there's nobody left to notice.
This is true.
Hi there. I was out on the hole looking for things to paint up, and I was wondering between you and I, maybe I could get some more cardboard. I was thinking of making little animations or something, maybe old video games. I come up with a lot of ideas out here on the hole, you know. Oh, and one time I thought to myself, what if we wore spacesuits all the time? Then nobody would be embarrassed about us farting. Also, nobody could see us frowning or smiling because of the shiny visor thing. Pretty smart stuff there.
Yes.
I mean, you wouldn't be worried about running out of air or anything. Not that we're going to run out of air. At least I...
A six-legged bear? I don't need anything else.
Hope not. Oh, speaking of, I'm almost done with repairs. Just taking a short tea break. A proper brew does a man good and all that. Do think on the cardboard. We're not using it for anything else, and I think I could put on a good show. I might call it Remember When Games Were Good, but also made with love.
Yes.
Look at these little cardboard things I made. Or maybe even games made of cardboard.
Oh.
Or something else. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
This is Firebird down in the bay. Coffee machine is fucked. Again. If I have to switch to instant coffee, I'm gonna make a Pellifor in the rec room again, and you won't be able to stop me. It's not a threat. It's a promise.
Oh.
Hey, Tex. Duncan Fisher here.
Duncan Fisher.
You know, while I leave a lot of phone messages, this is certainly one of them. Why did I even call you? God, my head hurts. Oh, right, that thing. That thing. The thing we did. Remember? I remember it. Surely it wasn't illegal, was it? Or was it about that tattoo? Oh, right, I remember. So, Tex, remember when we had that bet? That awesome bet? Like, hey, I bet we could sneak into the arena after hours and hot rod around town in those assault mechs? Oh! That was fucking awesome. Right, so, they sent me a bill for the damage we did, and I need you to bail me out of jail. Solaris may be fun, but Solaris jail is not.
Oh.
There's no gambling. A lot more people crying than I remember. No booze. Well, not unless you pay for it. Anyway, bail me out. You owe me. Don't make me rat you out. Doodles!
Okay, so I'm not sure if this is working, but I had to put this thing called a C-bill into your machine to send you a missive. Your ways are strange. I just wanted to say that I really thought you were staying so I could breathe you, and you proceeded to leave. I am truly really bothered by all of this, and I don't know what to say. I guess I want to express that I am disappointed. Please call me so I can arrange mutual combat at a place of your convenience.
Okay.
Enjoy the weekend.
Enjoy the
This
weekend.
is a message on behalf of the Lyran Commonwealth.
Oh boy.
Hallo? Hallo, ist da Professor Tex? Der Kommandant ist sehr wütend, dass es kein Oktoberfest gab. Oh Gott. Er droht, die Stadt aufzuklären, bis er seine Bratwurst bekommt.
Das war kein Oktoberfest!
Ich muss los.
This is a message on behalf of the Draconis Combine.
Oh shit. Later, Andrew.
この恥さらしめ、よくもこんな変魔をしだかして私の顔に泥を塗ってくれたな。何？間違い電話？これは失礼。
Hey,
What?
Tex, this is Sid. I got a line on the replacement gyro for your awesome. Hard finding some of these parts, but you wanted matching numbers for God knows what reason. But a gyro is a gyro. I have a room full of them, and they all work fine. Just stop being paranoid.
Right.
I'm going to tell you this right up front. It's not cursed. It's an awesome. A vintage model, too, which is my way of saying it should be in a museum, not in combat.
Okay.
But to each their own, I guess. By that, I mean pay me my goddamn money and you'll get your gyro. The failure to pay in full means I'm going to ship you bees. Bees, Tex. Bees.
This is Marshal Sims, Van Zandt Free State Marshal Service. This conversation stands as official warning to any attempt to set fire to any portion of government buildings. There is an upper limit on the scale of celebratory fireworks, and sir, PPCs are not fireworks. Hope that you can make the Corn Dog Festival, and remember,
Corn dogs.
I am the law.
This is Engineering Officer Tom. I got trapped in the wall again. I need help. Thank you.
This is Engineering Officer Ketch. Tom's stuck in the walls again, so if you see any disassembled vents, that's what I'm doing. They were bagels, by the way.
This is a message from Comstar.
Oh, God.
We are always watching.
Oh, yay.
Just wanted to let you know. 7 C-bills have been deducted from your account for this message. At the conclusion of this message, your voicemail will now explode.
Oh.
What do you expect? Lesson is over. Go to bed. She even called Nicorus? What is that? Like Nick and Nicholas combined? Nicorus the Mighty. Yeah, it's almost Greek Nicorus, like Nicorus Palapoulos. All right, yeah, I'm tired.
Warpugs. That was a primer on the clans. Okay. I'm here. That was a primer on the clans. Now, I don't quite know where to go from here. Okay? I don't quite know where to go from here. So, I think the best option would be for me to put some sort of poll up. The Secession War vids, I think that would be the best real point to go to, okay? I think that would be the best thing to go to. So, okay, if you know and you got the Discord, I think the best option for me would be to just rely on existing wisdom, okay? He includes a lot of setting history in the mech talks, okay. I do want to kind of learn more about the clan invasion, because it's been a very, very long time since I played anything BattleTech or anything close to that. And the last time I did was MechWarrior 3, which was the clan invasion, I believe. Warpugs, I can't even remember that thing. I'm just saying. Watch the vids in order so running gags make sense. That makes sense. That does make sense. Warpugs, I'm going to take off out of here, though. Thank you for joining me. Join me next Tuesday for more BattleTech Tuesday. I'm going to head out of here. Wow. Just wow. Like, so I got a lot of stuff to think about now. I have a lot of stuff to think about when it boils down to it. As far as my initial attitude towards the clanners, my initial attitude towards the inner sphere. But until next time, guys, I will see you on the next BattleTech Tuesday. If I don't see you the rest of the week, catch you guys next time.